So, Ambassador, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us here. Ambassador Matinyi, you are the ambassador of the United Republic of Tanzania in Sweden, accredited to the Nordic countries, Baltic States and Ukraine as well. Ambassador, it's a perfect time to be speaking to you today as IATA recently released a report giving an outlook of Africa, specifically for Tanzania, just giving an outlook of the growth of your air transport industry and its contribution to your GDP, as well as other supporting contributors such as job creation and supporting for other socioeconomic functions within the country. So, what is your long-term vision for Tanzania's air transport development, and do you see the country emerging as an East African hub?
Uh, thank, Thank you very much, Michael. Tanzania currently has three international airports. We have Dar es Salaam, which is the Julius Nyerere International Airport. Another one is Zanzibar and the Kilimanjaro International Airport. But because of the nation's plans for the future economic development and realizing what are the opportunities and the challenges around, we are now constructing a fourth international airport in the capital, Dodoma. We moved there recently, a few years ago, and one of the decisions was to construct a new airport. And that airport will have to get into the standard of functioning as an international airport. We do have another airport in Dodoma, but that one is going to remain for other functions that are not international. So with Msalato, because of the geographical advantage that the country enjoys, and coincidentally, Dodoma enjoys right at the middle of the country, we see Msalato as one way of taking Tanzania to a different heights. With other three airports, two of them now among the top 10 business airports in the continent of Africa, that is Julius Nyerere, Dar es Salaam, and Abid Karume in Zanzibar. We see Msalato also taking that challenge to become a regional hub. And we position Tanzania, and we see Tanzania as becoming a leading country in aviation in the region because of those various advantages. Tanzania is bordering 8 countries. We do also have island nations, 4 of them. Tanzania is a member to a couple of regional organizations that are actually signatories to a number of free trade agreements, and that gives Tanzania an edge.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for mentioning and giving us that overview, especially highlighting the fact that Msalato International Airport will be joining your other 3 airports in Dar es Salaam and Kilimanjaro and Zanzibar. How will the new airport be integrated in terms of balancing the passenger flows, feeder services, connectivity, and cargo movement in and out of Tanzania with Msalato Airport coming into the picture?
Luckily, these airports have a unique function, each one. If you look at Zanzibar Airport is very much into tourism, and to be specific, beach tourism with the Airlines of Zanzibar. When you talk of Zanzibar, we actually talk of Unguja and Pemba combined together. Now, with Msalato coming, Msalato takes advantage of a geographical location. Dodoma in the capital, Dodoma in the city, in the center of the country. Msalato is surrounded by regions that are very much into agricultural production, and most of the produce that we export abroad are actually in the region that surround Dodoma, and that's why we have the expectations and the plans that Msalato is going to work as a hub, taking cargo to the international markets. And therefore, because of the geographical advantage, it will be also easy to connect passengers to the outside world.
It was very interesting there, and you brought up the exports, regionally, as well as the geographical positioning that Msalato Airport will now be positioning, for Tanzania. You have very strong trade relations with Kenya. You have very strong trade relations with South Africa as well. You're very strong in exports of, items such as coffee, gold, as well as agricultural goods. So looking at those import-export flows, particularly for those high-volume and time-sensitive goods. What logistical improvements are planned to support, again, this geographical advantage that you have?
Yes. First of all, I have to admit that in the past decade, we didn't very much invest in that kind of business to making sure that our airports truly connect our country and the region to the international market. And that is one big challenge we have decided to tackle when it comes to Msalato. We want to make Msalato a modern airport capable of taking care of whether it's the cargo to the international market or even passengers. And therefore, we are currently looking around to see who can partner with us, who can help us in advancing the technology that we have, so that Msalato Airport will be able to compete with the other regional and continental airports when it comes to cargo services. And one of the companies that we are actually now communicating with and looking at is Avia Solutions Group, one of the major companies in Europe. We would very much like to make sure that Msalato, from the word go, it can compete with the other regional and continental airports when it comes to cargo services.
Now, when you look at the air transport industry and its contribution to various countries' economies, and I want to really get your vision here, but just in terms of the airport's contribution to social and economic factors in Tanzania, again, I want to reference back to the IATA report, where today the air transport industry contributes about 4.8 GDP to Tanzania's economy. That is a range of just below $4 billion, contributing also towards over 700,000 jobs created. How do you see the vision for the airport in the long term in contributing to the social and economic factors in Tanzania?
One thing is that once we place our airports at that level, be able to compete regionally and internationally, it will draw economic activities around those cities where the airports are located. And because of the fact that Tanzania, we have not only that agricultural sector is coming up because the government right now is modernizing the sector, but we also have a booming mining industry. And mining industry also, to an extent, has to depend on the airports. Tourism is coming up, but we are also trying our level best to make sure that our manufacturing sector also gets back to where it was 3 decades ago. At one time, Tanzania, we had several industries. Somehow things didn't work very well, but right now we are coming up again. So because of the diversification of our economy, the advantage of population, which is going to get to 70 million at the end of the year, and taking advantage of the customs union and market cooperation that we have within our regional organizations, the East African Community, where we have common market and customs union, as well as the Southern African Development Community, making up a total of 22 countries, most of them landlocked. Tanzania itself bordering 6 landlocked, and some of the countries that are bordering the landlocked have an easy access to our transport system. We see that one together with the other interests such as telecommunication and construction, giving the support and taking the advantage of the existence of these 4 international airports that we are going to operate come next year.
Now, one important factor to bring into our conversation today, especially surrounding the new airport and its opening, again within the ecosystem of the airport infrastructure that you have within Tanzania, is your national airline, Air Tanzania. Today, its main operations are operating out of Julius Nyerere International Airport. Now, with Msalato Airport opening, are we going to see a shift of your national carrier's operations going into Dodoma, or will there be an emergence of a new national carrier or a new supporting carrier? What does that picture look like?
First of all, we are actually now in the process of revitalizing the airline, the national airline, Air Tanzania. We are not currently thinking of having a second national airline. We do allow private operators into our airspace. That's fine, but we are now working we are now working hard to make sure that Air Tanzania becomes a competent airline in the continent. Right now, yes, it operates from Dar es Salaam, but with the plans that we are now thinking and working on in regard to Msalato, chances are there that the business environment will definitely attract Air Tanzania to move from Dar es Salaam as an operating center to Msalato. Even if it doesn't do it very quickly, but clearly, Msalato, since we are planning to make it as a regional hub, is definitely going to attract Air Tanzania. Most of the activities to be moved to the Msalato Airport at the center of the country. As we speak, the way passengers move in Tanzania clearly is going to be much easier for Air Tanzania to operate from Dodoma than from Dar es Salaam. If someone is coming from the northern part of the country, going to the southern part, western, whatever, neighboring countries, or to the island of Zanzibar, Dodoma seems to be a much better place because of its location at the center of the country. So there are hopes that Air Tanzania, from its business perspective, is very likely to move to Msalato. No decision yet, but chances are high.
So you painted, the domestic and regional picture of how that central geographic positioning of Dodoma would be good in terms of moving of passenger traffic, across the country and over to Zanzibar as well. Taking a look at international and regional airlines again from neighboring countries, as well as international airlines from the Asia Pacific, from the Middle East, and from Europe as well, which also fly into Tanzania. What are some of the efforts that are there to attract these airlines? Are there efforts and are there some incentives that you have in place to attract them as well?
Yes, we do have some incentives that are definitely going to attract these airlines. But as you know, the way the aviation industry operates is very sensitive on the economic data that normally drives the industry. Moving from one place to another place to them, it's a critical decision. They have to be sure exactly of what they are doing. So one thing that we have to make sure it happens before we start convincing them to move to the new airport of Msalato is to make sure the airport has the modern facilities and connectivity is very clear. And with our own airlines operating from Msalato, with the cargo services going to the international market, that will definitely drive them to move to Msalato International Airport. We have the experience of in the past when we had Dar es Salaam itself existing as the international airport, and somehow Kilimanjaro International Airport. At that time, no one even thought of Zanzibar that is going to become one of the busiest airports in Africa, not only Tanzania. But because of the tourism sector, the growth of tourism sector, Zanzibar has now become one of the largest airports, not only in the country or in the region, but now when you talk of 10 busiest airports in the continent, Zanzibar is one of them. And therefore, with Msalato, we are going to start with focusing on cargo services going to the international markets. We're going to take advantage of that location in the saving the country within itself and the neighboring countries, and definitely other airlines will have to take advantage of that as well. The same that has happened in Zanzibar. Zanzibar, 20 years ago, there was no international flying to Zanzibar, but today you have a number of them.
So we've seen a growth, and I like the fact that you mentioned that Zanzibar Airport, again, among the top 10 airports within the whole African continent. And I want to extend this to GDP as well, because when you look at Tanzania as well, you're one of the top 10 leading GDPs on the continent, and in East Africa, again, right among Ethiopia, right among Kenya, as one of the leading GDPs in East Africa. And there's usually a correlation between a higher GDP and a higher propensity for travelers within the country to travel. So the higher the GDP, the higher the propensity that people that citizens within the country will travel. At the same time as well, the accessibility of the accessibility. Apologies. In addition to that, the accessibility as well of the main transport networks within a country also contribute to the propensity of people traveling, especially through air transport. So this can be access links through road, access links through rail. What are you doing to improve those links by road, by rail, to feeder airports and to your main airports within Tanzania in terms of making air travel more reachable across the country?
Right now, the government is doing is to make sure that transporting infrastructure is improved to support economic growth in the country. And therefore, we have now managed to connect almost all regions in the country. Mainland Tanzania has 26 regions. We have managed now to connect the regions in Tanzania, taking them zone by zone. We are now connecting the major cities in those regions to various districts. So we have projects to make sure that we have roads and bridges that will connect the road services. These projects are going on very well, and Tanzania is now placed among the countries that have a good road connection between its various regions. It's a huge country, and it's not an easy thing. Thanks to the government for sustaining all the efforts throughout the last 10 years to make sure regions are connected. That's one. Secondly, we are also now on a project to construct a standard gauge rail, and that will run from the port city of Dar es Salaam all the way. It's already now in Dodoma. It's going to go all the way to Lake Victoria, and that will connect the country to Uganda and then effectively to South Sudan as well, because the capital of South Sudan, Juba, from there to where Lake Victoria is located, the Port Bell in Uganda, is about 450 kilometers. And that one connects to the Lake port of Mwanza all the way to the port of Dar es Salaam through that standard gauge rail. There'll be a branch going to Rwanda. There's now a branch, which now we are in the final stages of preparations before starting the construction, that will connect Tanzania to Burundi and eventually Democratic Republic of the Congo. Now, these will be feeding into the country, and all of them coming first in Dodoma before going to the port of Dar es Salaam. But on top of that, we also have a project. We are now, again, we had Tanzania Zambia Railway Authority, and the rail was running from port of Dar es Salaam all the way to Zambia. And it was also connecting to the Copper Belt area in Democratic Republic of the Congo. We are now modernizing that rail. In the past years, it was not functioning very well, but now we have three countries, Zambia, Tanzania, and China. We have signed an agreement to revitalize the rail. We are also having, and the feasibility study is done already, going to construct another line that will connect the port of Mtwara to Mbaba Bay in Lake Nyasa. Lake Nyasa is the lake that connects, that borders Tanzania and Malawi, effectively, and Mozambique. And that connects the port of Mtwara to southern part of Africa. We also have the port of Tanga. Tanga is going to be dedicated for the crude oil pipeline, the East African crude oil pipeline, which is coming from northern part of Uganda all the way to the port of Tanga. That will make Tanzania the only country, the only African country in the Indian Ocean with three major major ports. And that is not to speak of the port of Zanzibar. Now, on top of that, you're also going to construct special ports for fishing industry, one in Zanzibar and another one in Lindi in Tanzania. Now, with all those ports, rail and roads, definitely airports have to get very busy. We do have now traders coming from southern part of Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, and Congo, coming to Tanzania. They buy products there and they go back to their countries. And why that is happening is because of the connection of international markets to the region through the port of Dar es Salaam. So combining all those things together, we see aviation industry going very much in order to support the economic activities, not only in the country, but within the region.